2021 testing resumes at Laguna Seca Raceway. There were a ton of storylines between the 8 cars and drivers that were there, including Romain Grosjean, who has recovered from some of his antics at Barber Motorsports Park and seems to have found real pace in the IndyCars. Is anyone surprised? Who knows? Pato O'Ward, well, he may be the man to beat in 2021, and we'll be talking about that in this video, as well as an IndyCar legend returning to the cockpit. Let's get into it. And yes, we're still about a month and a half before the start of the season. Oh, it's just excruciating to wait, but at least we have some testing to kind of chew on and see kind of where things are stacking up. Now, obviously, it's not totally representative. Lots of teams are trying different things in testing. That's what testing is for, after all. But I think we do have a pretty good idea of who the drivers are who are really going to be the ones to beat this year, and it's not really a whole lot of a surprise. And one of them was driving on Monday in Laguna Seca, and that is Pato O'Ward, and he is so dang impressive. So let's take a look at the times and go over how each driver stacked up against one another. And so here are the unofficial results, and I only say unofficial because it is indeed testing. My information, I think, is fairly accurate. In particular, you'll note that the laps are more important than the lap times. Some people mentioned that to me about 2 testing videos ago, and I agreed, so I have worked to try to get the lap information to you as well, because I think it does tell quite a story. Now, Pato O'Ward is on top, and quite frankly, he has been incredibly impressive in testing this winter. And I think a lot of people may have forgotten, or maybe you didn't, that Pato O'Ward really probably should have had 3 or 4 wins last year in IndyCar. And we'll certainly be talking more later on in this video about his potential in the 2021 championship, but I have ranked him kind of among the top 5 drivers going into this season that I really think have a real legit shot at the 2021 championship. And as you can see, I mean, 3 tenths ahead of Ed Jones. Again, pure pace, just give it to O'Ward. Now, Ed Jones in second, and if you look, the Dale Coyne Racing team really pounded the pavement. Their 2 cars were the high lap earners, or the lap gainers, during this testing session. Now, Ed Jones, of course, returning to the cockpit of an IndyCar for over a year absence in Barber, and did not, in fact, the Dale Coyne Racing team between Ed Jones and Romain Grosjean, again, not surprising considering the layoff for Jones and the inexperience in these type of cars. Grosjean, they were towards the back of the field. You get here to Laguna Seca, and they're second and third. And I think Ed Jones is going to surprise a lot of people who may have forgotten how good he was the first time around with Dale Coyne. I think a lot of people saw his forgettable experience with Ganassi and then later Ed Carpenter Racing, and will probably judge him based on that. But I think he's going to have a career resurgence here with Dale Coyne Racing. And we've seen drivers like Santino Ferrucci and Sebastian Bourdais perform very well. Bourdais winning races in the 18 with Dale Coyne and Vassar and Sullivan. So that's a potent combination right there. And what else can you say about Romain Grosjean? It looks like he is going to be a threat on the road and street circuits this year for sure. Now, he did the most laps of anybody in the test today, but you got to think that Grosjean is picking this up very quickly. Of course, Laguna Seca is a natural terrain road course. It's something that he would be much more familiar with. Although Barber, I suppose, is similar to a Formula One track, but I think he's just getting used to the American-style circuit because, of course, we have a little less runoff on our circuits versus the European ones, and the tracks are tighter. They have more natural terrain elevation change. There's fewer circuits that especially Formula One goes to, that's something that they regularly have to deal with. Of course, no traction control, no power steering, things like that. Grosjean has kind of got to get back used to. Driver aids significantly less in IndyCar racing, and of course, as I probably should have mentioned a lot more in the last few videos, the man is still driving with burned hands. So this is very impressive from Romain Grosjean, and you've got to assume once he gets a little bit more healthy that he will continue to rise in the IndyCar ranks. He already appears to be right there with the rest of the field. Felix Rosenqvist hasn't quite gotten there yet up until O'Ward's pace. I thought this was going to be a real teammate battle throughout the year. Again, it's only testing, but I have a feeling that O'Ward seems to be the true number one at that team, and I almost feel like Rosenqvist left Ganassi because he was the number 2 driver at Ganassi behind Scott Dixon, and it appears like he's moved and suddenly finds himself right back in the same situation he found himself at Ganassi, with O'Ward perhaps being the number 1 chosen driver, and Rosenqvist perhaps playing the backup role, so to speak. I don't know. We'll have to see. Again, I think Rosenqvist is still just getting up to speed with his new team, so it's really hard to judge him that harshly. We'll have to see once the racing begins. But again, O'Ward is setting such a high bar right now. That's going to be tough for Rosenqvist during this season. Jack Harvey, with the Meyer-Shank Racing team, they've had a kind of a weird testing schedule. They've kind of been... they've shown up at tests that you wouldn't have perhaps thought they would, and they've missed some tests that you thought they would. You would think that perhaps they would stick around with their Andretti Technologies. I don't want to say teammates, but they share some technology with the Andretti Autosport team, and you would think that maybe they would all test together, but it seems like they're kind of splitting the difference and showing up at different tests. So that's kind of interesting. I don't even know if Andretti Autosport has tested at Laguna Seca, and I think they may have already used up all their test days in terms of the private ones under IndyCar rules. So that's definitely an interesting one, that Shank decided to go to Laguna Seca, and I don't think the Andretti team has gone that far out west. Rinus VeeKay, who was one of the leaders at Barber Motorsports Park, still in the ballpark, obviously around half a second behind Pato O'Ward, but doesn't seem to quite have the leader pace that he did at Barber. It could be the fact that there's a couple of teams that weren't at Barber that you would imagine would be strong, particularly Arrow McLaren SP. But also the interesting thing about VeeKay is VeeKay was the only representative of Ed Carpenter Racing to attend this test. There was no Connor Daly. I'm not sure if there's an official explanation for that, but I'm sure there is one out there. I just hadn't heard it. I don't think there's any favoritism or anything. I guess they just decided perhaps that Connor's services would be better served elsewhere. Now, page 2, of course, VeeKay's kind of the last of the full-time drivers on that list, and then we get into the part-timers who got their first experience of IndyCar in 2021 in this test, and you'll see Juan Pablo Montoya and Helio Castroneves, former teammates at Acura Team Penske. Of course, both of them are kind of dabbling in the IMSA ranks as well this year. Montoya was apparently, according to Marshall Pruitt, doing quite a bit of kind of not so much speed testing. It was more of data gathering. They actually put the kind of cowcatcher F1 style data measuring devices. I don't remember what the exact phrase is. I'll maybe put up a picture of one of those so you know what it is, on his car, which was kind of an interesting idea. So we'll see if that pays any dividends. Clearly, Arrow McLaren SP, at least with Pato, has one of the fastest cars in the field. A lot of speculation about what Juan Pablo will be doing this year for Arrow McLaren SP. We know for a fact that he's going to run the Indianapolis 500, but we don't really know where else he may run. Some speculation would lean towards the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, which would make some sense. I also would suggest that maybe the Texas doubleheader at the beginning of May to get him some oval track time. But of course, there's also the Indy Open test at the beginning of April that maybe Montoya will attend, and then maybe they run the GP to get some pit stop practice. I don't know. We'll have to see. But Montoya ran the fewest laps today at Laguna Seca. And then Helio Castroneves, the first time we've seen the 06 Shank car out, the second Meyer-Shank Racing car. Castroneves' debut will be at the Indianapolis 500. So that's going to be a tough one for the second Meyer-Shank Racing team. I would certainly hope that they will at least attend the Indy Open test. on the oval in April, but this was the first time Castroneves had been on the track in this car with this team, and that's the result. So obviously, Juan Pablo Montoya, his return, that's a big deal. You may have seen on my graphic that I had him listed as number 86. Now, he was testing with number 66 today. Of course, Helio Castroneves is also listed as 06. He was testing with the number 60. Of course, there's another 60 car out there with Jack Harvey. So the numbers that you actually may have visually seen on the cars don't necessarily count. I can tell you, confirmed, the transponder that's assigned to Juan Pablo Montoya is number 86. So that appears to be the number that he will be using. And thanks to my friend Steve, correctly pointing out that it's actually the 50th anniversary coming up this year of McLaren's pole position with Peter Revson. So we may be seeing a throwback scheme to that particular McLaren with Juan Pablo Montoya. We'll have to see. Now, that car had Gulf sponsorship, and which oil company did McLaren just recently sign a sponsorship deal with? It was Gulf, wasn't it? Gulf McLaren, anybody? But speaking of McLaren, I just kind of want to finish up with this because I really want to hammer home the point that I think Pato O'Ward is a true championship threat this year. I think he's easily going to pick up his first win, and I think he is going to really shine this year. I mean, he's been so quick in testing. I remember when I went to Sebring, he was, I think he was the top there too. So you have a street circuit environment. You have now road course data here that suggests that Pato is way ahead of the rest of the cars. And once we get to the ovals, again, that's kind of an unknown. But then again, Pato was the Rookie of the Year in the Indianapolis 500 last year. So there's a lot going for Pato O'Ward. I think it's going to be a hell of a battle between him and Newgarden for sure. Then you throw in Scott Dixon, of course, the defending champion of the series. And then you start thinking about if Andretti Autosport is there, Alexander Rossi, Colton Herta. Could be a very, very exciting IndyCar season. I can't wait to get it on at Barber. Let me know what you think in the comments of these testing times and how many laps were run and Montoya and what he's going to run and when he's going to run and Castroneves' pace. And do you think everybody's showing what they got right now? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video.